You know, Speaker, I look around and I look at every single chair here, and I think about the fact that members of Congress, every one of us represents about 700,000 people, but together we represent every single person that lives in this country. That's got to be the greatest honor and privilege for anyone to be able to serve humanity in this way. And so it's important for me as we think about the people's house, about the fact that we went 43 days without session. The Speaker put us into recess, and some of my colleagues were not even in their district. But here we are 43 days later on the fourth day of this week of session. And as a reminder, I feel the necessity to remind my fellow Americans around the country and everyone watching what has happened here. And so as a reminder, Republicans' big ugly bill perpetrated the greatest transfer of wealth from working people to the ultra wealthy in American history. I can tell you that when I visited food pantries in my district, I met people who said to me, "Congresswoman, every single year I donate $1,000 to this food pantry. But here I am making a line, and I've been here for 3 hours. This is not the country and the promise that I thought the president made." Here we are now. This week, instead of actually fixing healthcare, instead of passing legislation where we're actually strengthening the safety net for our constituents, instead of working together to build in the people's house, we are here filled with censures, and this week Republicans are attacking more of the programs that our fellow Americans rely on, resolving that programs like Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, insurance, workers' compensation, and more are horrors. So let's talk about the truth of the so-called denouncing the horrors of socialism resolution that we are going to be voting on in a couple of hours in the morning. Republicans must despise you and hate the idea of seeing our communities thrive. Look, Republicans are quick to steal the programs and services you rely on to bail out the ultra-wealthy and big corporations. So we know that it's not the subsidies or supports that are the problem. Republicans champion socialism when it's benefiting the rich and the powerful, who they think deserve it most. But when it comes to working families, then social programs are a nightmare because bottom line, they do not believe you deserve the support. Let me give you a few examples of social welfare programs that Americans rely on every single day, whether they're in a Republican district or a Democratic district. SNAP benefits, VA benefits, local fire departments and police departments, the United States Postal Service, FEMA, public education, and the interstates that make commerce possible. Listen, socialized programs are the foundation and safety net that ensures all members of our community can thrive, regardless of our personal economic ability to pay into a capitalistic society. So let's be very clear. I know, Speaker, you may not want to hear this, but it feels like hypocrisy. They want to give money to the elites while leaving nothing for everyday working families. It goes without saying that I will be voting no on this resolution. I believe that our country must reprioritize and reconsider what we invest in. For me, that's working people. The ultra-rich don't need more subsidies. We're about to have a trillionaire that comes from this country. And they should finally be paying their fair share in taxes. I believe that everyday hardworking people deserve more and better. And they've said this to you directly. They've said this to all of us directly. I believe in universal health care. I do. I believe in free higher education. I do. and social housing and pensions for all so that people don't have to work until they're 90 and they can retire with dignity. I also believe in guaranteed minimum income, free public transit, and so much more. You see, working families should be given every single thing they need to thrive. They shouldn't have to work 40 hours a week and still feel like they can't make it. And so we demand more. We demand a future that works for every working person. And we can, in fact, build that together. But we can't do that as we're destroying healthcare. You see, since day one, the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress have been clear about the pain they're willing to inflict on the American people. You see, in only 11 months, Republicans have used their power to cut our health care, to close our hospitals, to raise our health care costs in order to make sure that billionaire bosses become richer. It's open enrollment season, and working families are already seeing double, triple the cost they usually pay for health insurance premiums. These are the very same people that have been telling you that they can barely afford their health care and to pay for their mortgage. In Illinois, many people will see their costs rise between $3,000 to $23,000. Money that every family in our state should be able to keep to invest in their families and communities' quality of life. Here's the bottom line. Costs keep increasing, and people won't be able to afford their health care. Millions will go without the goods and services that they need. And the president wants us unhoused, he wants us foreclosed, he wants us poor, and it seems like he also wants us uninsured. Look, I've already signed a discharge petition to ensure that the ACA subsidies extension is put on the floor for a vote because we need to use every single tool at our disposal to fight for our working families. But I think it's time, it is past time, for Republicans to join Democrats in prioritizing working people and address the pain that our communities are enduring. We should be demanding more, and it means that we could be using the discharge petition process. We have seen it work before this week to release the Epstein files. We can do the same thing and get to the magic number of 218 members of Congress who care more about their constituents than they care about a dictator, who care more about their constituents than they care about insurance companies, who care more about their constituents than they care about billionaires. Because here's the bottom line. We must demand more. Every member of Congress who says they care about healthcare and working people, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, needs to sign the discharge petition and take action on the rising cost of living. And Mr. Speaker, people keep saying, so where does my money go? My taxes keep increasing. Where are they going? Well, Mr. Speaker, you and I both know where the money is going. Yes, it's going to Homeland Security, $150 billion there so that the secretary can cosplay and jump on those $200 million jets. But it's also going to other parts of the world to pay for bombs. And so I want to talk to you about a bill that I introduced a few months ago. It's called Block the Bombs Act. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, it must frustrate you that our government is using your money, your dollars, your taxpayer dollars, so that someone else can use them in another country and bomb women and children. Look, I've been clear since the beginning of the ceasefire in Gaza and Israel that Netanyahu and Trump are a lethal, unaccountable duo that cannot be trusted. In the time since the most recent ceasefire agreement, the Netanyahu government has continued to bomb Gaza, including refugee camps, restrict the movement of humanitarian aid, move to annex the West Bank, and has continued to arrest Palestinians without charge. All while Netanyahu continues to lobby the U.S. for more and more of your money so that they can get more weapons unconditionally, which Trump is inclined to deliver as long as he can turn Gaza into the next Middle Eastern Riviera. Well, today on this House floor, we must say enough is enough. Congress must assert its oversight authority and withhold the weapons that are still being used right now, even in the midst of this so-called ceasefire, to violate U.S. and international law. And that is why we must continue to demand that Congress pass the Block the Bombs Act as a first step in accountability and oversight. Do not be fooled into thinking that blocking bombs is no longer necessary. The only thing that will actually affirm a permanent ceasefire is the oversight that this body gives. It is needed more than ever because every member of Congress should join us today. So, Mr. Speaker, as I prepare to close, I think about the moment we're living. I think about the children in schools who are wondering what the future will look like for them. I think about the responsibilities that we all took when we took an oath to protect the Constitution, to protect the well-being of our communities, to uphold the Constitution, and to honor our constituents. And I have to tell you that these last 11 months have been painful. I will tell you that as someone that lives in the city of Chicago, I never thought that I would say that I knew what it felt like to feel like you're living under siege. As a Chicagoan under the leadership of Kristi Noem, we have felt like we've lived under siege. I know firsthand what it feels like to have a Black Hawk helicopter surrounding your home every other day because they're getting someone else. They're arresting another mother in front of a school or tear gassing someone else who's just recording. I know firsthand the terror that DHS immigration raids have had on our communities. We have been surveilled, people have been threatened, a 1-year-old was tear gassed, a U.S. citizen child tear gassed, a pastor was pepperballed 7 times, subjected to warrantless arrest, precision immobilization technique maneuvers, kidnapped and disappeared. Neither Trump's administration nor DHS cares if you're a U.S. citizen, a baby, a senior, or a pastor. There is no respect for the rule of law. Terror has been unleashed on American cities, and they think that as long as they issue a statement with whatever fabricated lie that they have created, that they can continue to get away with it. So I want to give you 3 examples of what I'm talking about. On Saturday, October 25th, Border Patrol agents aggressively disrupted a children's Halloween parade and terrorized and injured a 67-year-old U.S. citizen. A 67-year-old U.S. citizen, pulling him out of his vehicle, tackling him to the ground, and detaining him, arresting him. On Saturday, November 8th, ICE agents pepper sprayed a family and their 1-year-old child as they were leaving Sam's Club. A 1-year-old girl, a baby. On Friday, October 10th, an unmarked vehicle driven by federal agents crashed into Diana Figueroa's vehicle, and they exited the vehicle with weapons drawn to her to forcibly drag her out of her car and arrest her, a U.S. citizen. So here is my question to my colleagues in the People's House. If DHS cannot be held accountable, if we can't do our oversight work, if we're obstructed from conducting oversight, if they are systematically undermining our civil rights and perpetrating violence in our communities, then what is Congress's responsibility? Let me say this. The answer, Mr. Speaker, is very clear. We must strip away every tool they are using to terrorize our communities. We can start with the taxpayer dollars they are using to harm Americans. It is time for us to begin defunding ICE. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.